So music and college. Music can be an extraordinarily important part of someone's application to colleges, often in a way that's different than many parents imagine. I can only speak to my side of things, to my experience, but certainly most of my students play some kind of instrument. Most of my students have music in their lives, and in some cases I can point to very specific ways that it helps them with their college applications and their college success, but often not quite in the way that parents and even students imagine. For instance, it's pretty rare to get into Harvard because you're very good at an instrument. In my experience, it could be a positive factor. In some cases, if they need someone who plays viola because someone just graduated, it could be a positive factor. There could be a little bump in terms of likelihood of getting in. But parents often imagine that if you could just get a little better at music, if you could be the best in some local symphony or local group, if you could be first chair, that's going to impress an Ivy League school. And in most cases, that's probably not entirely true. It impresses a lot of people for good reasons. It impresses other music parents in cocktail parties. But often Ivy level schools are not going to admit you because you're really good at an instrument. They're going to want to know, what good things have you done with music, rather than how good are you at music. Now, it's true, if you're so good that they see you as a future concert pianist, if they see you as a future Yo-Yo Ma, a future Joshua Bell, there will be many schools interested. But those students are usually conservatory students, and the admissions process for conservatory musicians is very, very different. In my world, students want music to be a part of their lives, but they're generally not planning on playing music for a living. In fact, I don't want to be discouraging, but about 10 years ago, a dean at Juilliard at a conference told me that about 7% of Juilliard grads in music will make a living playing music. So most of my students know that that's at least not a likely path. But what they should know, what they don't always know, is that music adds tremendously to your profile for colleges, especially if you're sharing it and teaching it to people that wouldn't otherwise have music. So years ago, I had a student who told me her dream was to go to Johns Hopkins, and she hoped if she could win a certain violin competition that Johns Hopkins would notice that. My job is to tell her they probably won't notice that particular competition. You need to do something really good with violin rather than simply being good at violin. And so she built a program in the downtown public library in San Diego to teach violin to students who couldn't afford music instruction. She ran into a problem. The very inexpensive violins that she'd picked out for students, no one could afford even that modestly priced violin. And so she was stuck. I told her, how you get yourself unstuck will be the essence of your college essay. And indeed, she discovered there's 3D printing. There's a 3D printing lab in the downtown public library. Some clever person designed a 3D printable violin. You just need tuning pegs and strings, and voila. She helped kids print 3D print violins. They got to pick their color that they wanted. She discovered that some of the kids didn't like learning violin. It wasn't for them, but some of those kids really liked the 3D printing. And so she kind of shuttled them off to engineering exploration program, and she taught a core group of students violin on violins that they had printed themselves. Not surprisingly, she ended up getting into her dream school, Johns Hopkins. They want to see what you do with music rather than whether you're so much better than your peers at any instrument. Although I would say, in my experience, the benefits of music are far beyond just a better story for applications or an impressive thing on your resume. In my experience, music is important because it builds concentration and focus for students. And this focus and concentration they're going to take with them forever. I especially can tell on SAT and ACT prep who has had a musical background, because they often have an understanding of what it's like to not be good at something at first, and to know that practice and effort will, in the end, give you good results. I don't play piano. I don't play violin. When I was little, I learned guitar. It's still something I enjoy playing. What I remember most is the F chord. I don't know if anyone listening to this plays guitar, but the F chord, you have to have this finger, your index finger, cover 2 strings. Well, when you're 10, this finger covering 2 strings seems impossible. I remember the F chord because I remember thinking it was effing impossible to play this chord. When I was like 12 or 13, it struck me as kind of funny that I struggled so much with the F chord. And I couldn't even figure out what made it so difficult. I mean, your finger eventually learns to do that. That moment of trying something that seems impossible, and then after a week or two, it seems doable, and after a month, it's easy. Kids who don't play music, they often don't have that experience in their lives. They often haven't tried something that is difficult or challenging and then discovered with just a little bit of practice, it becomes much more manageable, and eventually it becomes automatic. The work I do with students in helping them with preparation for SAT and ACT, it's often a little bit like training people in music. At first it seems difficult, impossible, and with practice and effort and focus, it's second nature. Music has many things to contribute in the practical sense to college applications, but I would probably argue the contributions to the heart, mind, and soul of kids learning music and playing music, being around other students, having to listen to other instruments in your section. One kid who ended up going to Stanford even told me he got teased when he played flute. He was a guy. Flute was supposed to be a girl's instrument. But he told me, and he also told Stanford, it turned out playing flute in a section with mostly girls meant he got to talk to girls. He was much better socialized than some of his friends. He said that playing trombone, apologies, is basically a musical dude ranch. Very few girls. He discovered flute was not only something that was intellectually and physically satisfying, but he just got to be around a different group of people than he would have otherwise in his nerdy Dungeons and Dragons playing crowd at home. Music has practical benefits, adding something impressive to your resume, but I still think probably the most important thing that music contributes is something people won't see automatically, certainly not on your resume, but something that you carry with you, a way of looking at the world, a way of listening differently, more sensitively, a way of thinking about what other people are doing and how those sounds and those contributions can come together and make something that's meaningful and powerful. Thank you.